Welcome viewers to this program as we discuss political, social and economic issues globally with particular interest to Zimbabwe. Today I thought of discussing a very burning issue about ZEC's preparedness as we move to 2018 elections. For the past month, a lot of political parties, stakeholders have put their input into ZEC. So ZEC purportedly have been soliciting your views out there as to how can the 2018 elections be transparent, drawing public confidence, to enhance the integrity of the vote. Now, you might have heard, maybe to some people this is your first time, that ZEC has published draft regulations for that matter. Now, in this discussion, I'll be looking at whether the inputs by political parties or those stakeholders have been put on board in the new regulations that ZEC have published. Firstly, let's look at what do we know of the new regulations. Now, the new regulations replaces the 2013 rules, which were based on wards. So if you were registered within a ward, you could vote on any polling station within that ward. Now, within the new regulations, that is not possible. Registration is per polling station within a polling station catchment area. What does that mean? What that means is you will not be able to vote at any polling station within your ward except the polling station you are registered at. Which brings in a bit of confusion, and let's analyze it further. I'll give my reasons for that. The next thing is they've actually also pegged the number of people that can vote on a polling station. Now, there have been some contributions from political parties in which they were saying the maximum number of voters that can possibly vote on a polling station cannot exceed 1,000. And ZEC did take those concerns, and the opposition parties thought that ZEC would put that into consideration in the new regulations. What do we know about that? Now, ZEC has gone ahead and published a very alarming number of people permitted to vote at a single polling station. And they've now factored in 1,500 people that can vote within a polling station. Now, if we do some calculations on that, it comes up to about 125 people per hour. And then if we factor it further, it comes to 2 voters per minute. We all know that ZEC and Zimbabwe's system itself is not such efficient to be able to allow the voting process smoothly, for that matter, that will have public confidence, where 2 people can, a variety of 2 people or 2 voters per minute. Even the Western world would be very surprised with that, because I think they come nowhere near that. But you and me know as well that from our experience in Zimbabwe, 2002 and 2008, the ZANU PF government tend to store the process of voting in areas which they know are predominantly in favor of the opposition. So here we are, and by the way, we're talking that whether a polling station is in the rural area or a polling station is in cities where there is concentration of people, the average number that will be allowed will be the same, 1,500. Hang on, is that possible? Well, let's move on. There's quite a lot at stake, but I'm putting this across to you, and I think Zimbabweans we need to start discussing and challenge the status quo. So what else do we know? Now, polling station catchment area, according to the new rules, is that the catchment area is subject to inspection, recommendations by the stakeholders. And with stakeholders here, we mean the voters themselves, the opposition parties, the civic groups, and all other interested groups. And I think it makes sense that those people who are going to cast their votes, who are going to choose their government, do so solely with the hope that there will be a free and fair election that actually meet the benchmarks of integrity. But now, ZEC has gone on to publish these new regulations and put a clause that yes, the stakeholders have got the right to inspect, to recommend the catchment area of the polling station, but however, ZEC reserve the right of altering the boundaries of the catchment area without notice. Again, hang on. There is regulations which is intending to empower the voters themselves to bring about public confidence. Yes, you can inspect the catchment area. Yes, you can recommend. But ZEC reserves the right to change the boundaries without consulting you. What's the purpose of consulting the stakeholder in the first place? So we have got to already, if you look at it, Eisner read that the whole process, as we journey to 2018, using biometric, has already been hijacked behind the scenes. And Zimbabweans, we need to be very careful. We need to sniff through things like this, discuss them, challenge them, because it is, at the end of the day, we are talking of our lives. Now, in terms of the registration, voter registration, yes, the regulation says it's going to be biometric, but people have to physically register in Zimbabwe. So you have to physically travel not to an office within your constituency or within your ward, but to the polling station where you're going to be voting. Now, that brings confusion. That brings confusion. I mean, we are trying to revolutionize in terms of innovate the whole process using technology. There's no purpose, there's no reason whatsoever that you cannot register at any office, because technology will take care of that in terms of mapping to each polling station. So you can see that there is an element of frustration as well. But again, let's move on. We need to be very critical and make sure that we demand. And this is the case to to opposition parties, civic groups, members of the public, Zimbabweans all out there. I think this is the time that we all have to take a collective decision to face this government head on. Now, again, the other worrying part of this registration exercise is that you have to show ZEC proof of residence or proof of address. And why is it something of a concern? Of course, yes, I mean, proof of address has always been the case when you are registering at any office in the previous elections. But here we are talking about registration at a polling station-based catchment area. And again, we've got the problem that you have to be physically within that polling station. Now, most of our voting population are the youth. In fact, empirically, over 55% will of the population are the youth, and most of these, they don't own properties. So most of them, either they are renting their properties or they live with parents, relatives, etc. And some of these are in the rural areas, and who then give them the papers? So if you're looking at landlords, we have to write letters to the ZEC as a proof for residence. Now, there's also here sort of a dictum to say, if the landlord is ZANU PF and you are perceived to be an opposition supporter, would the landlord truly give you a letter to register and to vote ZANU PF out? It will remain to be seen. In rural areas, we are going to have a situation whereby village heads will be writing letters to people to register at different polling stations. Would the village heads, the chiefs, the headmen, who have over the years been influenced by ZANU PF and ZANU PF buying them through a lot of resources, would they be willingly writing letters to people they perceive to be supporting opposition? Again, those are audits that we have to face head on and make sure that as we inspect the whole process, all those factors are looked at and are not compromised. Now, further to that, there's an element of diaspora vote. Now, if you are supposed to travel to a specific polling station to register physically, what is at stake for millions of Zimbabweans, either within SADC region or all over the world, who may want to vote? So you'll find that it does disenfranchise Zimbabweans who are already outside the country. Never mind that the economy of Zimbabwe itself is being run through diaspora remittance. It is actually the source of revenue for Zimbabwe. Yet our constitution is very clear on that citizens of Zimbabwe, wherever they are, whether in the diaspora, they've got the right to vote. But these regulations are silent. They don't extend that right to vote or to register to Zimbabweans who are outside there. We have to make the necessary noise. We have to make the necessary noise, not only necessary noise, we must demand what is rightful ours, because it is our right in the Constitution. And deliberately, ZEC has omitted that. So this is a burning issue that we need to face head on. Now, one other thing is, in these regulations, yes, they said they're going to use a biometric for registration. But it is silent on what features will biometric be capturing. Is it the fingerprints? Is it the iris? Is it face recognition? Or is it the voice recognition? So there's still gray areas as to what exactly will they be capturing. And we would want a situation whereby it is very clear that whoever is going for the registration knows exactly what type of characteristics or characters or features are going to be captured. And what happens, I mean, of course, we have to be very careful there that certain features may not necessarily be possible to capture for every Zimbabwean if people are disabled. So by knowing what exactly features ZEC is going to capture, we'll be able to plan accordingly for those people who are disabled, who may not, because of physical impairment, unable to offer such type of features. So all those opposition parties out there, these are challenges. It's not business as usual, I can assure you. ZANU PF is not sleeping, and we'll see quite a lot of gerrymandering in this whole process. What else do we know of the new constitution? There's a clause that is very worrying as well. it says that persons currently on the voter register may transfer to the new register. And it doesn't necessarily say how they transfer to the new register if their biometric features have not been captured. And it does not necessarily say, when they say current voters registered on the current system, which one are they talking about? Are they talking about the compromise to buy one register? What's the purpose of a new registration using biometric if we are going to transfer the very clumsy and old, compromised to buy one register into the new one? So I think we need to ask difficult, this is the time to ask difficult questions. And we don't have to expect easy answers. We must ask difficult questions, and ZEC must provide those difficult answers. And we must probe it further. We must take ZEC to accountability at every level, scrutinizing every word and every sentence. They must be very clear, because we know very well that ZEC, in most of its hierarchical positioning, is highly infiltrated by ZANU PF, if not controlled by ZANU PF in its entirety. So yes, we've got a lot at stake as opposition parties, as the Zimbabweans, if we are to see a free and fair election that brings public confidence and integrity that we all deserve to move on as a country. Now, there is also one financial attachment to the new regulations. It says for any stakeholders who require the voter registry, in other words, the voters' roll, electronic voters' roll. Now, have to, if you want an electronic one, then you have to pay $1 per polling station. Now, what does that mean? In average, every election, our average polling stations are about 10,000. Now, if you want an electronic copy of a voter's roll, you then have to pay $10,000. For small parties, political parties, this will be very difficult. Even bigger parties, for that matter, given that we have got serious financial crisis in the country. So this is again another money-spinning exercise. And it goes on to say, if you want a physical copy of the voter's roll, then you have to pay $10 per polling station, which translates to about $100,000. Now that's a huge figure by Zimbabwean standard, considering that we've got at every level financial crisis, that the government itself is not even able to meet its obligation in terms of salaries for civil servants, etc. So these are issues that we need to critically analyze and make sure that we as stakeholders in these 2018 elections take great audit and great interest. And we can only do that if all Zimbabweans are united. And I think I celebrate the fact that there have been tremendous achievement in terms of a coalition of opposition parties in Zimbabwe, because I think that is what we need. What Zimbabwe needs at the moment is a crossover from a brutal regime to a pluralistic democratic dispensation, democratic systems, where every political party thereafter, once ZANU PF is gone, with its crude autocratic system, brutal system, once it's gone, then all political parties will have the right to coexist. and Zimbabweans can then celebrate and move on, like in other Southern African countries. After all other Southern African countries are moving on, and some of them, they are moving on at the expense of Zimbabwe. And I think we have, for the past 37 years, Zimbabweans have suffered tremendously, and certain generations have been totally disenfranchised. And I think we need to flip another chapter in 2018 so that Zimbabwe can once more become the jewel of Africa, which is what it is. So yes, I thought people out there, yes, you can inbox me of your suggestions, and these surprise analysis and discussions will continue as we get into 2018 elections. I can see that there are people already who are putting across their views. Yes, sir, retired Colonel Bernard Matongo, thank you very much. I can see you have been putting across your suggestions, which is quite good. Yes. I think your worries about the residence permit for people who are living in rural areas, I think that is quite a worrying one. And I think ZANU PF will be trying to influence that voter registration exercise as far as from the rural areas is concerned, because most of the village heads are paid by government, and ZANU PF has capitalized on it to say they are paid by ZANU PF. And these people see a thin line between ZANU PF and the government. And given that ZANU PF has been in power for the past 37 years, it has actually monopolized, it has ZANUized every system. And I think I agree with you, retired Colonel Matongo. Yes, so keep your suggestions coming, and until I see you again, this is Elliot Pfebve, Diplomatic Office of the MDC. Thank you. Goodbye.